Hello everyone and welcome to Press TV's Spotlight program. And now every year far-right Israeli settlers backed by regime forces hold a so-called flag march in al-Quds Old City and storm the al-Aqsa Mosque compound to commemorate the initial occupation of East al-Quds back in 1967. And every year Israeli regime troops force local Palestinians to shutter their stores, restrict them to their homes as hundreds of checkpoints are set up to deny them movement to make way for settlers to march and chant racist slogans against Palestinians, including death to Arabs. Joining us now is Yves Engler for the program, author and political activist, joining us from Montreal. And Saad Nimr, professor of political science, joining us from Birzeit University out of Ramallah. Hello, gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you both to the program here. I guess we'll start there in Ramallah with you, Professor. My initial question to you now, your initial thoughts, please, if you could, on the so-called flag march and why it is permitted to take place when all it really does is only promote violence and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in the area.
Right. Good evening to you, your viewers, as well as your guest as well in Montreal. The reality of the Israelis, they are trying to assure themselves that Jerusalem is unified from their point of view. Because, you know, in 1968, after less than 1 year of occupation of East Jerusalem, they annexed it officially to Israel. And since then, they were trying as much as they could to prove that this city is a unified and an Israeli city, but they couldn't because of the Palestinians, because of the al-Aqsa Mosque, because everyone is going there, and the presence of the Palestinians is so obvious, and especially in the old city inside the walls. So all that, they are trying to prove to themselves that, you know, Jerusalem is unified and it's, you know, part of Israel. And that's why they want to make this march. Otherwise, why they are celebrating with, you know, this kind of march. Additionally, you know that this morning there were 3,000 soldiers and police officers in Jerusalem were deployed. 3,000. If it is unified and it is an Israeli city, do you need 3,000 soldiers and a police officer to be in the city if it is unified? And so they are trying, you know, this as much as they could, but they are not even themselves convinced that they, you know, took the place, in spite of the offer which was given to them for Jerusalem by Trump when he said, I recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Still, the Israeli inside, not only Jerusalem, but the whole Palestine, they think that they have doubts always that they might be kicked out and it's not their country at all.
Thank you, Professor Nimr. And Yves Engler, welcome to the program there, bud. Now, Yves, every year, nothing ever comes good out of this march. So why is it so imperative for settlers to take to the streets and yell death to Arabs, go back to your villages, dirty Arabs, especially with an Israeli far-right minister at their side?
Well, I think it's just the most crass, violent element of Zionism, and for them, this is about rallying the extremists and pushing the political structure in Israel to, you know, steal more Palestinian land. Bomb more people in Gaza, as I saw images of people calling for a second Nakba, you know, expel more Palestinians. And so they want to rally their forces. From a Canadian perspective, I noticed that there were flags for Lahava, a racist Israeli group that was, you know, part of the march. That's an organization that in Canada you can give a donation to and receive a subsidy from the Canadian government. So from a Canadian perspective or international perspective, to see the different ways in which the Canadian, US, and other governments enable this type of Jewish supremacist, fascist kind of march is pretty disturbing.
And Professor, we saw this phenomena in the same almost exact phenomena, maybe to a much smaller scale, in the States. We saw them extremists walking in the street, ultra-nationalists, yelling, "Jew go home." If you remember, it was under Donald Trump's reign. And the public, the media, they were outraged. They wanted to see political leaders, their political figures, show a very fierce response and condemnation. They didn't get that from Donald Trump, and they were irate. We're seeing the same exact thing now in the old city. Why is there such a different narrative when it comes to Washington's reaction?
Not only that, the people who are chanting these kind of dirty words. We are talking in Israel, we are talking about ministers who is talking about the same thing, and no one is doing anything to them. If you look at the election programs for Smotrich or for Ben Gvir in the public eye and around the world, when they ran for the elections with a racist agenda, quite clear, if that happened anywhere else, there will be a huge, reaction. Not only that, Lieberman, when he ran for the elections a few years ago with the agenda of transfer of the Palestinians out of Palestine, the transfer, and he became a foreign minister, and he was received in all capitals. Can you imagine if any other country, foreign minister saying such a racist thing, definitely they are not going to be received, and there will be lots of, commotion about his statements. But Israel always, they go away with whatever they want, because by the end of the day, they are back, they are, supported by the Americans and supported by the Europeans. And I don't, put an exception for anyone. I think all the West are in support of Israel, and shamefully they are in support of Israel against even their own standard and all what they are talking about of human rights and international law and all this crap that usually they give to us always in the third world countries, all that you are not respecting the international law, you are not respecting the human rights. But when it comes to Israel, there is a kind of a cooperation with Israel. So I think that from my point of view, at least, not only the Americans and also most of the Europeans are participating in this aggression against the Palestinian people and in this racist regime which they are supporting against the Palestinian people.
Thank you. And Yves, if you don't mind, I want to put that same question to you. The hypocrisy, the double standards that we see in a reaction when it comes to racist slurs, to the fact that we see basically two parallel protests, one in the States, one in al-Quds, and completely different reactions by Western leaders.
Yeah, and I would say that the one in al-Quds is more dangerous, because you have ministers who are showing up and are directly participating and stoking it. The double standard is stark. The double standard flows from the fact that Zionism is an outgrowth of European settler colonial imperial movement ideology, and Canada, in my case, in the country where I am, has been backing that, from supporting the Balfour Declaration in 1917 to very important role at the UN in 1947, diplomatically enabling the Zionist cause, to the Canadian World War II veterans that fought to ethnically cleanse Palestine, and the weapons that were sent from Canada, to accepting Israel stealing even more Palestinian land than the partition plan, the unjust partition plan gave 75 years ago to the Zionist movement, and that continues right into today. And there are many facets to that. There's also a very powerful pro-Israel lobby in this country that is very effective in using the horrors of the Nazi Holocaust to justify, to clamp down on any criticism of Israeli apartheid. So the double standard is stark, but I think it flows from the fact that the liberal capitalist order in North America doesn't want a sort of fascist movements in Canada or the U.S., but they're basically fine with that being the case in Israel and in so long as it's targeted at dispossessing Palestinians. That's also what you see with the protest movements within Israel. You see that there's a lot of pushback to the the fascistic changes to Israeli Supreme Court and legal structure when it targets Jews, but very little pushback when it's targeting Palestinians. And so yeah, the double standard is stark. Anybody who takes a look at it, it's obvious. But the political structure in North America is not based upon any sort of consistency. It's based upon power politics.
Thank you, Yves. And Professor Nimmer, the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas, today condemned this law that's before the Knesset right now that will carry a 1-year jail term if you hoist the Palestinian flag. There are obviously some extreme elements in the Knesset that really wanted to get this bill through. What does this bill tell us, if it's other than anything other than a reflection of a gross promotion of apartheid and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians?
Yeah, that in spite the fact that in Oslo agreement, there was an agreement that the Palestinians will fly their flags, and it's recognized officially by Israel as this is the Palestinian flag. Now the Israelis are going backing on all the other things that they even signed to. And now they consider the Palestinian flag and raising the Palestinian flag is would be considered a kind of a, you will be arrested for it, and or you will be paying, a hefty fine for raising the Palestinian flag. This is something that we express ourselves with. The problem is that the Israelis, they are going more and more towards the right. And I have said that many times. I thank God for this government, because now it's exposing the real face of this colonial racist regime in front of the whole world, and to see to what extent this whole world will continue, to turn the face around of what's going on. Now they are following the Palestinian flag, and that came in the same day when they got it into the Knesset in the first reading, at least today. It's in the same day with the flag march in Jerusalem for the Jewish community. So it is quite obvious that they are against. They want to exactly to ethnically cleanse anything Palestinian, not only the people, but also the ethnic cleansing is going against even the plantations, the homes, the roads, the land, everything. They want to ethnically cleanse and to erase totally whatever is, can say that it's Palestinian. And one of the things is the flag. The flag is a symbol for the Palestinian people, for the unity, and for their information. The Palestinian flag was there even before the establishment of the State of Israel. We got that flag as a Palestinian flag after 1916. So since 1916, it is the Palestinian flag. And now they are talking about, criminalizing the raise of the Palestinian flag. So they are continuing with their ethnic cleansing program against the Palestinian since they got here into this country in 1918 and onward till today. We are still in the same battle, and we will continue to resist. Not only Hamas, but I think all the Palestinians will be against not only this law, but this is at least one of the laws out of hundreds of other laws against the Palestinian existence in their land. And we, our answer always will be to exist is to resist.
And Yves, would you like to weigh in on that? Because that's also tied to the minister you mentioned that was marching with these settlers. Itamar Ben-Gvir, he said there is no such thing as a Palestinian identity, a Palestinian language. I don't know how you can say that when they're standing next to you speaking Arabic, and they've been there for God knows how long. But my question to you, when you have Itamar Ben-Gvir, he's part of the establishment, the settlers are calling him our prime minister, basically saying that he's the one pulling the strings in this cabinet and not Benjamin Netanyahu, that he is the true reflection of their sentiments toward Palestinians. And you've seen the kind of very loaded stuff that's coming out of this guy's mouth.
Well, this just comes across as here you have this very wealthy nuclear armed state, one of the strongest militaries in the world, and they're scared of the Palestinian flag. I mean, that says a lot. It says, it's kind of pathetic at one level, but it's also that they are much more vulnerable. They feel themselves much more vulnerable than sort of it may appear on the surface. So I mean, it's just it's hard to kind of not just sort of kind of laugh at at that type of pitiful kind of effort to just disappear Palestinians. Now, yeah, I mean, I think that you have the open Jewish supremacists, aggressively violent figures who are running the Israeli government. I mean, this is taking the mask off of what has been going on for 75 plus years, and I think it's partly reflective of the fact that the Israeli society, the Zionist movement, is kind of drunk on its own power, and it doesn't realize that this is actually probably not smart tactics, that this is turning off many of their sponsors in Canada and the US, many of the different political forces that have backed for many decades the dispossession of Palestinians are being turned off by this crass kind of Jewish supremacist politics. Now, in the short and probably medium term, obviously this is very, Palestinians are going to be feel even more of the brunt of Israeli colonialism. But I think that this is not actually smart politics, even from a Jewish supremacist Zionist perspective.
And Professor, how worried should we be, not just as Palestinians, but as anyone else on the planet, that according to Mr. Engler, a Jewish supremacist entity is behaving like this, thinking like this, and then in possession of nuclear weapons on this planet?
No, they are unique in such case. I don't think that the international community would allow any kind of regime in this way if it wasn't for Israel. So yeah, these white supremacists, if you like, more than anything else, colonialist, and they are part of this huge project, even for the United States and for the European. The interest of the United States and the interest of Europeans with Israel is quite important, and they are going, to let go of all these, small mistakes, such as, being racist and being, fascist. These are small mistakes they can tolerate as far as their interest is there, protected by the Israelis somehow. So, yeah, I don't think that could be anywhere else around the world, but only in Israel. And the problem is that it became like normal to allow Israel to have these kind of things. No one is getting even surprised with what's going on, because this is Israel. So it has the right to do so. Exactly as Golda Meir, a prime minister in Israel at some stage during the 60s, she said after the Holocaust, no one should ask the Jews what they are doing, regardless, if they are really fascist, if they kill the Palestinians, if they ethnically cleanse the Palestinians, it doesn't matter. No one should argue or ask the Israelis anything because of the Holocaust. So till now, not only the whole world is still paying for the Holocaust, but it's on the expense of the Palestinians. If that was a European problem, why should I, as a Palestinian, should pay the price for it? Whether it is the anti-Semitism before the Holocaust, and the whole Zionist project started even before the Holocaust, and they started cleansing the Palestinians before the Holocaust. We can remember also the ethnically cleansing of 85,000 Palestinians and destroying 22 villages in Palestine. That was in the years 21 till 25. And I'm talking about very early in the history, even before the Holocaust and even before the war and before the Nakba. 22 villages were erased during that period because they claimed that they bought the land and they don't want Palestinians on this land. So this kind of racist movement, it's from the very beginning. It's an ethnically cleansing one, and it's a fascist regime, and it's totally colonial supremacist and colonial white, aggression against the indigenous people. In spite of that, the people are used to it, and they don't blame the Israelis. If that happened anywhere else, it will be a different story.
Thank you, Professor. And Yves, why do you think the al-Aqsa Mosque is a destination in this itinerary of the so-called flag march? Because, the settlers know this is going to do nothing but provoke the Palestinians, and basically it's also an expression of superiority over the Palestinian population of the old city?
Well, I think it's designed to provoke. It's designed to stoke, religious enmity. I saw one of the chants that was something to the effect of a Jew is a soul, a Muslim is the son of a whore, or something to that effect, that some of these marchers were chanting, clearly designed to stoke enmity. This is type of stuff that I have to say that in Canada, many of Israel's supporters would find completely outside of bounds. This would be viewed as so utterly, sort of fringe, and the fact that you have ministers of the government that going there and doing that. So I think that it's designed to provoke, and so long as this Regavim, this charity, is again a group that Canadians can provide donations to and receive a subsidy. This is one of the groups that's right at the heart of Smoldrich and Ben Avir's movement, and you can provide donations to them while they support this open racism, open religious enmity stoking, and I think until that ends, right, until the sponsors of Zionism, which is principally, of course, Britain, the U.S., Canada, the three main sponsors historically and ongoing, until that ends, these forces within Israel are going to feel emboldened to do that. Now, the upside, the positive on this is that there is clearly growth in understanding of Israeli apartheid within Canada and the U.S. There's clearly, the Palestine solidarity movement is far stronger today than it was, decades ago. People don't concede as much to the bogus anti-Semitism claims that because you support Palestinian rights, you're anti-Jewish and stuff like that. So there is a growth, but still in officialdom in Canada, it's a culture of really basically backing these Jewish supremacist flag marchers that are trying to provoke religious conflict.
And Professor, I'd like you to weigh in on that too. Why do you think that the Al-Aqsa Mosque is part of what the settlers target on the so-called Flag Day, and why Israeli authorities still deny Palestinians up to 1,400 shop owners from accessing their businesses, and a lot of them, there's so many checkpoints, they can't even get home on this very day, but they will not restrict access for the settlers to the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, knowing how volatile things can get there?
Well, if we are talking about Jerusalem, the heart of Jerusalem is Al-Aqsa Mosque. And if they manage to, get into Al-Aqsa Mosque and try to divide it, both time-wise and place-wise, as they plan, then they would manage, to say that really we are controlling Jerusalem. So Al-Aqsa Mosque is in the heart of the struggle, especially in Jerusalem, and it is the heart of Jerusalem itself. What they are trying to do is not only to march into Al-Aqsa Mosque, and we have that every morning, because already they had divided Al-Aqsa Mosque time-wise, and every morning from 7 o'clock in the morning till almost 12 before the lunch prayer, the settlers are there, and the Palestinians usually will be kicked out of Al-Aqsa Mosque. Today in this march, because usually these marches are supported somehow by the Knesset and by the government, but this time it is not supported. It is in the participation of the government and the participation of members of the Knesset in this march, like some of the ministers were in the march itself, and lots of the members of the Knesset were also in the march. And we believe this is even more dangerous now for us than before, because we think that, and thank God at least it went on today without anything to go further, because we were afraid really that in entering Al-Aqsa Mosque today that they will stay there and want to leave at all. And I think that would be a huge battle after that, definitely. But their eyes on Bab al-Rahmeh, and they want Bab al-Rahmeh as part near to al-Magharibi gate where they come from. Usually, and they want to control it, to claim part of al-Aqsa Mosque. And if they claim part of the al-Aqsa Mosque, it's like al-Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron, it will be a partition of al-Aqsa Mosque, and that will be really devastating for the Palestinians, for the Muslims all over, because we all know that al-Aqsa Mosque, with all its premises, 144,000 square meters, are purely a Muslim site, and we should not allow, and we will not allow no one to claim it, in or claim any part of it for the Palestinians. And that's what they were trying to do this morning.
Okay, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you both for joining us on the program. We're out of time. Yves Engler there joining us from Montreal. Professor Saad Nimr there joining us from Ramallah. And viewers, that brings us to the conclusion of this segment of your Press TV Spotlight. Thank you for tuning in, and bye-bye for now.